Hello, hello, everybody, lovely people of both LinkedIn and YouTube. It's Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. And we are back with another very interesting interview. Well, the first one in 2021. So, Kathleen, let's start with a big bang. So, before I go into too much random rambling, Kathleen, welcome to the show. And please do introduce yourself a little bit to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy 2021 and New Year. So Kathleen Reily. I am a mindset coach for men in their midlife. And I focus my real passion, my real passion and calling in life is really focused on the neuroscience of happiness, right? A field of neuropsychology called positive neuroplasticity, right? So really being able to change your daily habits in order to create brand new neural pathways in the brain to sustain a new experience, in life. And I mean, we can look at building new experiences in the mind all the way from, motivation to joy to peacefulness to calm, right? And so that's what I do. That's my life's passion, and I love working with men, particularly in their midlife. And that is largely because I feel like there's a huge just lack of tools in terms of, coaches, particularly a huge lack of coaches out there, really focusing on bringing these tools for transformation to men, right? So that's kind of that's me in a nutshell.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I do agree. It's a challenging group of people. I'm not there yet. I'm still not in midlife. I consider myself to be a bit younger than that, but I have quite a few friends who are around 50 years old, and it's quite a challenging group. On like at least my friends, on one hand, they're dealing with all this inner struggles and inner
Mhm.
problems and being unhappy on the inside and so on. But then on the other hand, it's almost like they're too old to learn something new. They
Mhm.
they they often are like, ooh, if I would be 30, yes, I would, do something new, but my time is over or something like that. They're just too used to the ways that they know. So how did a young lady like yourself chose this particularly difficult demographic group of midlife men who aren't very used to sharing and talking about the deeper things and so on? What was the reasoning behind it?
Right. Well, that kind of existential inward dive right into understanding the self is something I've always been interested in. And I do work with some of my clients are outside of that midlife demographic, but just to kind of dive into my story a little bit and how I got here, right? Um, so as all throughout my childhood and young adulthood, really, I mean, 6 months to the age of 24, I was in and out of the hospital, had a lot of surgeries almost every year, because I was born with a cleft lip and palate. And that kind of, I mean, I can expand on that in so many ways, right? Some people have their trials, right? Their challenges when they're young or when they're old, right? Later on. And so I felt like those experiences of, we're just now scratching, research is just now kind of scratching the surface of the impact of childhood hospitalizations and trapping fight or flight response in the body, which then later manifests into often, chronic anxiety and panic disorder, which it did for me. And so that kind of got me on the path of really learning about positive neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain. But I would also say that those experiences, for many reasons, forced me to spend a lot of time kind of alone and in kind of the exploring the internal, right, the internal landscape. And so that, I think that at a young age really sparked my kind of love for deep thought and internal examination. And so later, just after college, I had a really interesting procedure done, and I couldn't see for about 5 or 6 days. I was just laying there. I mean, of course, you get up and you sort of feel around, but for the most part, I was laying there healing from this operation, and I had to. My eyes were taped closed, and I had to really go inward and think, Kathleen, do we want to continue in this pattern of really severe anxiety, which had then turned into, some mild bouts with depression, and it was just kind of like, there's gotta be, it was one of those moments of there's gotta be so much more. So then I delved into positive neuroplasticity, and I actually began to rewire that chronic anxiety and panic in the brain. And after this experience, which was really quite remarkable with meditation, visualization, taking those principles from neuroscientific case studies around how the brain works and how you can literally tune in to your choice experience, whether it be, for me at that point, it was feeling safe, it was feeling at peace. You can really tune into that, make it very, very, very real, right? And then you're building these you're kind of customizing and fostering the design of these new neural pathways in the frontal cortex. And so as I kind of realized, wow, this is quite effective, then I wanted to start my own practice, my own wellness company. And then from there, I went through multiple certification programs around positive neuroplasticity, and started designing programs for people in general. When I started out, I was just working with anxiety, but then I was having more and more male clients, and particularly kind of in that midlife period. And I loved it. I loved working with men, right? It was a kind of, there's a kind of like vulnerability and self-expression and sort of unearthing, right, Miha, that you just mentioned like a moment ago. Men don't they don't necessarily feel the desire to speak about the troubles, speak about kind of the challenges going on underneath the surface, and the emotional challenges as well to a certain extent. And so I really felt a calling to bring the tools and the gifts and the things that I had accumulated to men. And so, yeah, it's been about 4 years now, and yeah, there it is.
No. I mean, I completely get you. I mean, if I look at, I started helping startups
Oh.
because I am that hardcore startup founder myself. But I only then realized how a big bunch of strange people us startup founders are. And then, I started helping more and more fellow entrepreneurs. And eventually that led to connecting more with women than with men. I mean, I do have male clients, but I do have a much higher percentage of clients that are women. And yeah, we get along really well. And I think also the results are even better with women in some way. But yeah,
Yeah.
Kathleen, neuroplasticity. I mean, I know you now for a while, and you did explain this to me. But when I first met you, when you first started talking about neuroplasticity, I was like, "What the hell is that?" So I'm sure some of our audience might not be that familiar with, neuroplasticity and what that is. So maybe a quick introduction to the whole thing, um, in layman simple terms, and then we can go into how we can use it to benefit us. And maybe you can give us some tips and tricks what our audience can do at home to start seeing some benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the most amazing things about, um, kind of this developing field of research around neuroplasticity, is that, we aren't just stuck in the perception, of our world around us as we always kind of have been. So to answer your question, um, if you imagine kind of a pathway right in the woods, some pathways are more worn, some pathways are completely covered over and have to be cleared and used, and kind of imagining our the kind of the neurons right in the brain, and each neuron being a different kind of pathway, right? And we're consistently, going through this process of neurogenesis where we have new neurons popping up, throughout our daily life, and more so for people who are more active, um, and so, with each new neuron, we can take advantage of the brain's ability to shape that, neuron in order to, in my line of work, um, in order to customize a new experience, for the mind, right? So, for example, if I just finished working with a client who was, really, really struggling with, fight or flight, chronic anxiety, and so, for him, it was really important to, I created a meditation for him that focused on other experiences as well. But for the sake of an example, part of the meditation focused on the experience of safety, right? So, in order to build that sensation in the brain of feeling safe, walking around in the world, getting on a plane, driving, right? In order to feel safe in those experiences, you want to continuously revisit a potent feeling, right? A sensation of safety. Maybe you feel most safe when you're, I'm looking out at the porch right now, and there's a hammock out there. And when I go and sit in the hammock, I feel safe. I hear the wind chimes. Maybe that is an experience of safety. And so through meditation and visualization and incorporation of the senses, as I sit out there in the hammock, the wind is blowing. I can hear that. I can feel the wind blowing. I can see the blue sky. And I can touch the hammock, right? So I'm bringing in the senses and I'm feeling that safety. And it's very real, right? It's very real. And as I do that several times a day for a 6 to 8 week period, it varies it's varied for all of my clients. Some clients it takes 6 weeks to establish that automatic, innate experience of safety. Others it takes closer to 7 weeks. But as you carve that new neuron in the brain to support that experience of safety, or that experience, say, for example, of purpose or motivation, whatever it is for you, as you do it over and over and over again every day in a very real fashion, before you know it, around that 6 to 8 week period, it just becomes natural. It becomes your new state of mind. And so, yes, so that's my emphatic, passionate, explanation.
So does that mean that, let's say, and then when I'm faced with something that scares me, let's say flying scares me, so when I have to go flying, I draw on this safety that hammock gives me to calm myself down in that moment, and to be able to overcome that anxiety that the idea of flying is giving me, by drawing power from this other positive feeling that is kind of holding me and giving me that safety. Does that sound like that?
Yeah. So what happens is, through these meditations, your brain is associating anxiety with safety. And so, what I train my clients to do is make the positive greater, and actually kind of create a Pac-Man effect. So make the positive greater until there's no more of the anxiety, right, through the meditation. And so then what you're doing, 8 weeks later, is you're sitting on a plane. I had a previous client shoot me an email a few months ago. Well, this wasn't a few months ago. This was like 8 or 10 months ago, right before COVID. It was super unfortunate. He hadn't gotten on a plane in 20 years, right? And he shoots me an email and he's like, Kathleen, I booked a flight to Florida. I've been wanting to go to Florida for years. I've got all these friends there. And then, of course, it didn't work out because of COVID. But what he explained to me was that his mind had associated his mind had associated anxiety in general with feeling safe. And he had trained his brain to make safety a bigger experience than anxiety. And so what happens is, when you're sitting on the plane, you feel that spark of stress pop up. First of all, it's like a level 1 or level 2 compared to where it was before, which is like an 8, 9, or 10. So you feel that small surge, right? But your brain immediately knows to displace it with the sensation and experience of safety, right? And so it overpowers it, and it happens immediately. And I've had clients describe it as kind of a little man in their brain with a broom coming by and just sweeping away the anxiety, and in place is that, that safety.
Oh, okay. I understand that. Yeah. So Kathleen, what are maybe some simple tips, tricks, tools, maybe something that our audience can take away from this interview? Maybe like a quick meditation or some other thing that they can start implementing today, and start seeing some results in the coming days.
Yeah, I've got so many small. I'm trying to keep them bite-sized, and I'm trying to keep just a couple so that I don't overwhelm. So one is, it's really critical to have a short meditation practice in the morning, even if it's just 2 to 5 minutes. If you're brand new, spending a few minutes focusing on deep belly breathing to calm the nervous system, and then recreating one positive experience within that small meditation, right? Maybe maybe you want to feel more, or maybe you want to experience more joy, right? Or you want to experience more, oftentimes I'll talk to men, and they'll say, it's been a decade or two since I just jumped out of bed, and I was like full of excitement and motivation for the day. And so maybe you want to recreate that. So you can go back, right, to a memory in your maybe it was 10 years ago, maybe it was 20 years ago, when you could recall sort of jumping out of bed, right? Or a memory that specifically brings up the experience that you're targeting, that you want to see grow in the mind, and just making it real, and then zeroing in on that core experience of, say, drive, right? Oh, I'm jumping out of bed. I feel like I have so much drive to achieve this one goal, right? And it's that experience, it's that feeling of, drive that really.
So basically, like going back and
Mhm,
finding things that really associate you with whatever positive thing you want to bring back, whether
mhm,
that joy, fun, happiness, being
mhm.
loved, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and then just vividly recreating that moment with
Mhm,
all the feelings and smells and all the senses that were
mhm.
surrounding that, so that you can almost feel like being in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And just do that for a few minutes in the morning. Do it as many times as you can, but obviously, this is bite size. And then the
Kathleen,
other, yes,
before you move on,
yeah.
so I do know when I talk to people that when you mention to them meditation, visualization, they all struggle to understand how to do it because of the crazy brain that's like all over the place. And when they first start, even being quiet for 5 minutes and just alone without doing something, because we are so used to, even when we go to the toilet, our phone is with us, so we literally don't. I don't think, other than sleeping, that we do anything without some distraction around us, and
Mhm.
and that crazy running brain. So do you have any tips maybe on how to start meditating, how to start visualizing?
Mhm. Well, yeah. I mean, if your greatest distraction is, the phone and notifications, and many of us that is the case. Um, in the morning when you do that short 2 to 5 minute meditation, if you're beginning, put your phone on airplane mode and time it. So just put your timer to 5 minutes. So your brain knows, right? Because we're still planners, and we still want to know so much about time, right? As human beings, and so doing a 5 minute timer, put your plane on airplane mode, face down, right? So you don't know there are any um, kind of there's no like lighting from the phone, and then just focus on one area of the body, right? Focus on breathing into the lungs, imagining the lungs expanding and contracting, you know um eliminating the it's just you just kind of have to do it, and eliminate your distractions, and start small, and you'll grow from there.
Okay, okay. Well, I think from what I'm hearing, and I do remember it was the same with me. It was not turning off the phone or something like that, but when I did turn off everything, I was just there myself without anything, and my brain was starting to go crazy, crazy with like thinking about this and that, and did I do this, did I do that, and I just wasn't able to calm my brain down and to just silently
Mm-hmm.
sit for 5 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
just focus on the breathing and enjoy those 5 and then 10 and 15 minutes. And the time like went so freaking slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I think I felt like, oh, it must have been 15 minutes, and then I checked on the phone, and I think less than a minute has passed.
Yeah. So two things. One, that is completely inevitable, especially when you start out. And, no one, hardly is there a human being on this planet who can meditate fully without actually having their mind, run off. So that's completely inevitable. And honestly, I know, probably a lot of your listeners have heard a lot of meditation, practitioners speak, but um, it's just practice. It's just practice. You start, you call your mind back down to the focus of your lungs and your breath, and then it runs away, right? And then you might get some fears pop up. Deep breathing, call in the mind back down to the lungs and the chest, and the breathing into the lungs, and over time, it takes daily practice. Over time, it becomes easier and easier. um, and some people, there are absolutely some people who find movement more meditative, in which case exploring Tai Chi as well, exploring movement. And of course, I'm not a huge fan of yoga, but exploring yoga and other calming, soothing, slow movements. Um, and so yeah, so that's kind of
Okay.
my.
Well, I hope I didn't distract you too much, because I do remember that you want to give us another tip, another thing, but then I
Yeah.
jumped in with the question. So can we continue with that?
Yeah, no, you're fine. There was just one other tip. Um, when you when we have those moments throughout our day, or maybe it happens once a day, maybe it happens a few times a day, or just a few times a week, we'll have a moment where we feel goodness. We feel a positive sensation, right? And so, for example, the last night I went for a walk, and the moon was gorgeous. I love walking at night, and it was silent, and the moon was so beautiful. And I was faced with a choice. I was faced with a choice to just keep walking and keep going through my mind and thoughts, or pause and take 20 to 30 seconds to literally just breathe in and drench my entire mind and body with that feeling and that sensation of, gosh, that moon is stunning, and bringing it in. And I don't always remember to do this, but that is the second suggestion, is that we are given, these little droplets of goodness, of joy, of positivity, of love, of beauty, all these good experiences. And soaking those up will also retrain the brain for positivity, and
Seize the
other.
moment.
Yes, yes. Smell the roses, right? That's what people refer to. It's like smell the roses.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Often we're so busy going around our days and so on, and um, we are so focused on chasing the big trees that we overlook the forest, or maybe we are so focused on the forest and we don't see the trees. And it's really about figuring out that balance, and yeah, just living in the moment. Well, Kathleen, we are close to the end of the interview, but I
we've been.
still want to ask you a few things. So, number one thing is, if our audience resonated, especially audience that is midlife men, if they resonated with what you were talking and they would love to have a chat with you and potentially see how you can help them on that path, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, honestly, through LinkedIn. You'll tag my LinkedIn page to this live, and just connect with me there. And I have, I have two avenues. You can just shoot me a message, and we'll talk from there. I also have a SMS text message group that's free, and I send little meditations and tips and tricks and solutions to common challenges.
Do you have, is that like a link that they can click? So maybe you can,
Yeah.
after we are done now, you can go back into the interview and just drop that link into the comment. And if they want, they can click it and join your SMS group and start experiencing you in that way. And then if they feel like it, they can take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Sounds good. I'll drop that link after we close up, and and you can find me on Facebook through the tag on this live, or not Facebook, LinkedIn.
Yes.
Through
Yeah, you are already tagged, so they can just go and click it in the description, and they will go to your profile. Well, I have one more question, and so our audience is very, very interesting audience, and they love to know. Get to know my guests on a personal level a little bit as well. And so my last question is always, what can you tell us a little bit about Kathleen and share with us and let us a little bit into your life?
Oh, what can I share with you about myself? Well, I'm passionate about meditation. I'm passionate about, exploring the mind and personal growth. And I love it when barriers appear in my life, because it's just another challenge to overcome. And what else? Like hobbies?
Yeah, whatever you want. Some people talk about hobbies, some people talk about their families, some people talk about childhood, like just really whatever you want, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, so that the audience can get to know you as a person.
Yeah. I was the only girl in a large family of many boys, and I love my brothers dearly. In fact, they played a part in my story, starting my wellness company, working with men. And let's see, what else do I love? I love kind of bouncing around and living in different places, and novelty and adventure is huge for me. Those are kind of the things.
And walks under the moonlight, obviously.
Yeah, walks at night in silence under the moonlight. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Kathleen, just the last question. What's the last golden nugget of wisdom? And it can be related to what we talked. It can be general golden nugget, like whatever you feel is that last thing you want to share with the audience before you and I say goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, your mind is your oyster, if you will, and focusing, building a positive mind and a joyful mind, and living a life of, just magnificence is so much about, what's in here, so much about, what you cultivate in the mind. And that's why I say the mind is your oyster, and therefore the world is your oyster, right? So kind of what comes up on the spot there.
Okay. Well, Kathleen, it was absolutely lovely having you here and learning about neuroplasticity and what we can do, the little things that can help us overcome certain anxieties or fears and so on. So thank you for that. All the best in 2021. And happy Monday. Great week and all the best on your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a wonderful week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So another Monday, another great interview. Um, I love these topics: emotional intelligence, mind. Um, it's really so important for us entrepreneurs. Um, Too often we think that we just have to be out there on the fire ground, solving fires, doing to-dos, but it's so much more about that inner world and how we treat ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, and so on. And so I love bringing these topics here on LinkedIn and talking about them. Now, next Monday, we have another interesting interview ahead of us. So I hope you will all be there as well. Happy Monday. I hope you're all healthy and safe, and everything is okay on your end of the world. I wish you absolutely only the best in 2021. Happy New Year. And I'll see you next Monday, guys. Take care. Bye bye.